Okay, so we'll get started. I've had a lot of questions. Pretty much all of the clients have been asking about, what do I do? I'm just sort of unmotivated. I'm having a hard time getting out there. There's no sort of reason for part of my running, and so I thought I'd put this together. And really, this isn't any different than any other crisis that you might go through, whether it's a family crisis, work crisis. Even environmental, whether it's, we've got fires, we've got smoke. Last summer or last couple of summers, we've had a lot of smoke in Lethbridge, so people had a hard time getting out for a run, and for a couple of weeks at a time. Any kind of situation like this is really going to start highlighting what is your why. Like, why do you run? So part of it can be just for health. So I just want to eat donuts without guilt. So really, the health reasons haven't changed, whether you are talking about running at all, weight loss, cardiovascular fitness. It's still there. Some people need it from the mental health side, so the community. You want to find those friends that are weird like you, so you can talk about running. And family and other friends really don't want to hear about your last run and some of the other weird stories that we tell as runners. Some of it might also be that you like the tangible rewards of personal records, age group awards. You get that external motivation. So, that's always sitting out there. You like being on that leaderboard or that age group leaderboard. Maybe you just like beating that guy, right? There's somebody out there that you just, whether it's a good friend or not, you just like, that competition. And other people just want to get out to burn off the crazy. Like, you just need that sort of escape. You need that little endorphin rush. You want to get that runner's high. So you just kind of need that as part of your whole mental well-being. And this is where the mental side comes in. So are you running away from the connectivity? So some people, they're working at home, they've got kids at home, everything is going on all day. It's just a crazy show at home. And so you might be using running just to get away from that. Leave the phone, leave everything. You might not even want music. You just want to just run and not think about anything. On the other side, if you're, stuck at home and you don't have anybody at home, you don't even have a dog or a cat, you're just running maybe to connect with your people. Like, maybe you have 4 times a week that you connect up with your running group, and there's your support group. You have your run chats. You can work through a lot of things that way. For other people, running just your guilty pleasure, where you can get to listen to your favorite music, your authors, podcasts. I know I line up. I usually have probably 10 hours of podcasts waiting for me for my run. So I'm kind of itching to get out the door because I want to go spend 2 hours listening to my favorite authors. I also use it as a study time where I'm looking to learn some things about running or physiology. And so I'll listen to some very nerdy people out there, and I can spend 2 hours. The nice thing is with the podcasts, you can set it up to about 1.5, 1.75 speed. And so they're talking really fast, and you're actually not waiting. You're actually, sometimes it's drinking from the fire hose, and you have to rewind to pick up some of the points that they had. You may also want to use it to meditate, just to zone out, just so that you don't have to think about anything. Maybe this is where you do some of your best thinking. You're going to solve some problems when you're out on a run. Or you just like to have those guilty pleasures also, whether you get to eat the donuts, drink the Pepsi, have the beer, and that might be just part of capping that running experience. But for all of this, not a lot has changed, even with this crisis. So, if you were a solo runner, this presentation really isn't for you, because you've been doing this and you're in your element. But this is, looking at a bunch of different factors. Looking from the health side, I borrowed this graph from the Human Kinetics website, and it's a curve showing you the risk of getting a cold based on your lifestyle. And so a moderate amount of exercise is the best preventative measure. So you can see what is moderate. So, maybe it's not your peak of training, but then it's not your time off of training. It's kind of in that middle part where, maybe you can max out at 50 kilometers a week. Well, maybe this is like a 30 kilometer, 25 kilometer a week distance that keeps you active. You're not pushing too hard, but you're still getting some cardiovascular benefits. There's a similar curve out there for the risk of death for cases of influenza, where people that exercise moderately also had a lower mortality rate. So you can sort of assume that this is very similar to the current COVID situation, that some exercise is your best best bet, but you really don't want to push too hard. So you don't want to probably maybe extend those hard tempo runs, extend that long run, especially a long road run past 2 hours, 2.5 hours at the max. You just don't need to be putting yourself in that sort of physical deficit. And on the same side, you're also looking at, you don't want to be in too much of an energy deficit as well, because your body uses that to keep your immune system moving along. Excuse me, one of the other aspects, oh, I'm just losing it. One of the other areas of immunity is just getting enough sleep. So you'll need about 7 to 8 hours a night. And if you have a hard time sleeping with everything that's going on, you want to get apps like Calm or Headspace. Oh, geez. No water. Sorry. Sorry, break off there. And then on the other side too, it's probably not the best time to lose weight. So everybody's probably, your step count's way down. You're not going into work. But it's probably not a good time to be in too much of an energy deficit. If you're gaining a small amount of weight, that's fine. If you're putting on a couple of pounds a week, that's maybe a little bit too much. This is where running would help. Then we can start talking about the detraining aspect. So I borrowed this graph from Jason Koop, who's the head coach for Carmichael Training Systems. He's got a great podcast as well. And so he brought this to light where, the solid blue, the dark blue line is kind of your typical training curve with diminishing returns. So, that first month or two of training, you'll ramp up, but then, if you keep doing the same amount of training, the amount of returns you get diminishes by about half every time, for every break, whether it's a month or over the week. And you can see at that inflection point where the crisis happens, whether it's this current crisis or something happens at work, you have a big, project, something's going on. That's where all of a sudden training starts slowing down. So he's got a couple of different scenarios here with that light or that royal blue line. That's the next one down. Is if you took about a 10% reduction in your training, which is kind of like a recovery week of training. So you don't really have to worry much. And once you pick it back up, it usually it's about a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you kind of take a week of easy, it takes you about a week of getting back to that pre-incident rate that you'll recover that training. So that happens pretty quick. More than likely, we're not talking about a 10% reduction. We're probably looking at that yellow line where we're looking at maybe a 50% reduction in training. So if you're normally running, 30 to 40K a week, you're down to 15 to 20. It's going to need a couple of weeks of regular training to get you back on that track of where you were before. So again, not terrible. This stuff happens on regular training blocks where, you have a bad week because something happens. On pretty much all of my training plans that I put out there, I seldom put a rest week in or a recharge week, because 90% of the time in a 4-week period, everybody has 1 week that kind of goes to hell. So I just kind of know that that's happening. And for the people that I'm kind of monitoring, if I see 3 or 4 solid weeks of training, they haven't missed a workout, I'll kind of actually interject and just kind of cut them back maybe a little bit, maybe reduce it by 1 or 2 workouts that week, just so they get a full recharge. Sometimes it's just the mental break of taking a couple of days off. If you get down to that red line, that's where your training is reduced by 70%. So, now you're only getting out maybe 1 day a week. This is where, if you extend this out, it's going to take a few more weeks for you to get back onto track. So hopefully your life isn't as crazy, that you can actually do a little bit of training. You don't have to do a lot, but just a little, just to keep you so you don't really lose everything you've gained. The other sort of one of the side effects is you might find that by taking a few weeks off, or really a few down weeks, you might find that whatever that little nagging injury you had may go away. Okay, it might have been just a soft tissue or some kind of connective tissue that just needed a few weeks of being unstressed for it to get back to normal. All right, so now we talked about the good and the bad and the ugly of training, detraining. And so what are you going to do about that? So one of the best things here, and you can actually see, that your optimum schedule, and then you kind of see sort of this joke schedule that what really happens out there. So for most people training, the most effective training is because of consistency. So it's not about the big heroic efforts in training. It's about that little bit every day, or that medium amount of effort every second day. It's just over and over and over. That's where you get the biggest gains, and that's where you also probably reduce the biggest injury risk, where you're not going out taking 3 days off and then, oh, I got to make up for 2 workouts and kind of mash them together. um, what you're really looking for is some daily and weekly routines that allow you to exert some control over your world, because right now, um, everything's going on, and so you have no control, which is not, that's part of the demotivation, where you've just kind of lost control of your life. So this is where, if you can frame your day a bit, you might be able to put some control back in there. There should be some parts of your day that you control, and for many, it's the early morning. So before the rest of the family gets up, you might have 20 minutes, 40 minutes that you can probably be very selfish with that time, because nobody's making demands of it. So if you can get that short workout in the morning, that can really help. And then the rest of the day can just happen. If you are going to do this, you might want to put a visual calendar similar like to the one that's on the screen there, just so that you have that reminder of the consistency, and to make sure that the things that are important are on there, because it's about what do you want now versus what do you want long term. So a lot of times you just want the crazy to stop right now, but long term you want to be healthy, happy, and you probably have maybe some racing and running goals that you want to attain. So it's really serious that, during these fluid and crazy scenarios. So having that schedule can really help. A good example is just having a quick eye opener workout. Maybe it's some high intensity or mobility work. Really, all you need is 5 to 20 minutes here, and you're going to get 70 to 90% of the effectiveness of even a much longer workout. So you don't have to go a lot, but just something that's going to help you get your heart rate up and get you moving in the morning. If you like to ease in your morning, then maybe just you can back off and you can like read the paper or email or sit on Facebook for half an hour, but sit on a stationary bike, or you can walk on the treadmill while you do it, or you can get one of those little pedal exercises you put underneath your desk. They're kind of, like $40 or something. You can get them on Amazon, and it's just something to get you moving, and probably gets you into that, 60% of your max heart rate, which is really nothing. It's like a walk level, but elevating that heart rate for that 30 minutes in the morning can pay off big time, down the road. So it's just something. At lunch, it's probably a good opportunity just to get off your butt. Okay, go for a quick walk. If you're stuck in the house, just go up and down the basement stairs. Go, spend 5 minutes, go up and down, up and down, up and down. It's much harder than you think. Or if you want to get something, if your legs are tired, you want to just get in to do some push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups, some nature. So you're just kind of getting a bit of a full body workout to sort of activate things. At the end of the day, you may really want to use this exercise as a cap for your school day or work day. And so the finish, or the exercise actually bridges between the two, so that that, okay, at the end of the work day, say it's 4:30, I can, log off. I get to go for my run, my walk, my bike ride, and then I'm going to, have supper, and then, finish off the rest of my day. But sometimes now with, the weird schedules, everybody being at home, getting up to working, to eating, to evening, and maybe not exercise, there's just no delimiting factors. You're not driving home from work anymore. So you can help that to just kind of frame it. All right, nature's still out there. So right now the weather is starting to get perfect. The crocuses are out. I saw a bunch yesterday, and we're hitting the 20s right now in southern Alberta. So, these are pictures from around southern Alberta. So go out there, and I tell people, get lost, or like your mom and dad used to tell you, go outside and play. Be home by sundown, kind of thing. All right. So on the other side, whether it's just you getting out by yourself, or you need that social connectivity, right? These are your peeps. These are people that get you. So you can be weird with your crazy running friends, and maybe you get to do the events that are group events or group runs, and you get to rekindle and reconnect with people. That's probably the biggest thing that's happened over the last 2 months. Races were where you could connect. We in Lethbridge, we got the Coulee Cactus Crawl, which is usually just a big get together. It's at the end of May, and everybody, you get to chat with some people you haven't seen for most of the winter. On the other side too, maybe you're involved in hosting and putting on races, so you get to be the host of the party, and you can bring your friends to come out, and you do all the work while they get to do the playing, and then you still get to chat with them after. So what are you going to do? How do you fill that void? One of the things you can do is you can check out some of the online running groups. I know groups like Personal Peak and a few others, they have usually call it either run teams or group training, where they kind of set up a private Facebook group, all the people, and usually, there's some cost to it, and the people can, interact with each other, and the coaches are in there too. And so there's kind of like a group training, just like if you were at a group a run session. And so there's a number of them out there. You might find one that maybe fits in with your personality and what you would like to have for connectivity. Um, you can also consider putting on your own backyard event, like the one that was put on a few weeks ago. I attended it. I thought I'd never do a virtual race, but it was a lot of fun, where you had to go out and do 6.5 kilometers and then come back to your Zoom session. And then once everybody got back, there was like 2,000 people on Zoom. And so you could kind of see some conversations, you could interact with the people that were in your 25-person group. But you could do that on your own. You could have your own group. So if you got some friends and you say, okay, we're going to meet up online at 8 a.m. on Saturday. We're going to chat for 10 minutes, and then we're going to go out for a 15-minute run, 45-minute run, get back online. You're going to chat about your 45 minutes, and you can cycle that for 3 or 4 times if you need to get that long run in, but you're really having a hard time getting out the door. The virtual races, there's all different formats. Give one a try. There's a few low-cost free ones, and they're using it just as fundraisers for food banks. Just give it a try and see if you like it. There may be some aspects you like. Some of them may just, not really work for you at all. So sometimes it's about the swag, right? And so people are mailing the swag out, jackets, bibs, the whole bit. So whatever you're looking for, something is already out there for you. Also, even with your running group, just schedule an evening chat with your group at the end of the week and talk about, the weekend runs, share pictures, and just kind of try and reconnect that way. All right, the people that really want the performance in racing, where you have goals, things like Boston Qualifier, getting qualifying races for some of the trail runs out here. Something like this guy in the picture here, he won our 200-kilometer event at La Sol last year, and he was, nobody was happier to see the finish line than him after 33 hours, I think it was. And he trained all summer for this one event, so it anchored all of his training. He knew he had a why. Every day he's getting out there, putting in, 100-kilometer, 100-mile weeks. And now that's all gone away. And we may have some events in the fall. We don't know what they're going to look like. So if racing and performing your thing, you may have to look to some of the virtual or even some hybrid events where they have the course set up, and then you can run the course on your own, and then you post your results. Other virtual events, you just have to, find the 10K and then, run the 10K and then upload your Strava results from there. Personally, if you don't want to do the event thing, just if you have some personal goals, everyone's got a favorite loop. And whether it's from your house and you got the 7 or 10K loop, get on it, and you can just start looking at lowering your time. Now, Strava has a nice feature, even on their free aspect, is it can actually recognize the same routes, and it will actually show you some graphs of how you've been doing over time. So you can run faster, slower, and you can actually see some progress. And so it becomes a little bit addicting if you like that kind of thing, that you always want to see the improvements. For other people, for me, what works for me is I usually like to set like distance goals and elevation goals for a week, where I want to get in, say it's 60 or 70 kilometers in a week, and I want to get in, 3,000 meters of elevation. And I'm looking at those numbers, and Strava does a good job. Garmin Connect does a good job, where it shows you, I think Garmin Connect says, here's what you did in your last 7 days. And so there's that piece. And then Strava does it by the week. So by Sunday night, it kind of cuts it off, and that's your week. And so, sometimes Sundays I'm going out for a little extra run because I want to hit that next number, the next 0. All right, sort of one of the last things here is just canceled races and featured races. So right now for your training, you can be a little less structured with your workouts because there's no real focus for a race, that other than it's quite far away when you're talking about racing in the fall. So you can do some of that base training. The most important part isn't what you do, it's just that you do something. So get out and do some runs, once a week. Do something a little faster, a little harder. Do some hill repeats, do some strides. Just pick up, just so you don't lose that running economy, that running speed that you used to, that you've worked hard for in the past. So just don't let things fall off completely. If you're struggling to get started, make sure, writing it on the calendar so it's visual, in the bathroom, in your closet, wherever you have your running stuff. So you see it, that you see that running thing that you need to do. And then have your shoes, your clothes all set out. So everything is kind of right there. So, I use the laundry room, so I've kind of got a bunch of stuff right there. So I go into the laundry room, I can change right there. All my stuff, my watch, my hat, my glasses, it's all right there. I always try and have my route plan so I know what I'm doing, as opposed to, I'm standing on the stairs going, oh, where should I go today? I don't know, should I go that? No, maybe I'll go this. No, just have it kind of set the day before, the night before, saying, okay, I'm going to go do my 10K route, my 10K road loop. If it's windy, I'm going to go north-south. If it's not windy, I'm going to go east-west. So, just have it ready so that you don't have any of those decisions to make in the morning. You can also work on those things that your physiotherapist or some of those niggles that you've been having for quite some time. This is where those little exercises at the end of the day or first thing in the morning, a little mobility, a little bit of strength in some of those weak areas. This is the perfect time for that because, there's no races coming up. You don't have to do a bunch of things, so you can really focus on the things that are important to you. So with the, I use that line from the airlines where, put your mask on first before you can help others. So you want to make sure that you are healthy mentally, physically, before you can help the rest of your family to deal with, whatever they're dealing with right now. So, with current, we're looking at the current races, the future races coming up, and maybe in the fall there will be some relaxing of rules, and you can go from there. But the current regulations are no events over 15 people to the end of August. So what might they look like? The road races will be a little tougher unless they can do the corralling of people, separation, and maybe some smaller wave starts so that people are separated the whole time. So those mass, probably anything over 500 people is going to be really tough to organize. So you might see some smaller, a lot smaller events, or maybe they have the events happening through the day. So they have one group starting at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and just kind of running them through. Distancing, trying to stay away from people. So, rather than the small pathways, they're going to have to, commandeer some actual roadways in order to make these events happen. The hygiene requirements, you're probably going to be self-supported, so get used to wearing a water pack, whether it's a chest, like a vest, or whether a waist. You might have to be out there, be ready to be out there for 2 hours, self-sustained with your own water. And so, things like gels and stuff on course is probably not going to happen. And things like travel, that's probably going to be the biggest impact, where trying to get down to an American race is going to be almost impossible. So, there will be some stuff happening in the fall. One of the things that, where do I have that listed? One of the things we were just talking about with Lasso Ultra is we're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the fall. We're waiting to hear back from different groups, and even the city of Lethbridge will even permit us to run. So we're asking the question, well, what if we just had we have the course set up, a 50K course, but we have it open for some number of weeks, and people can actually just go on the course, record their time, and they can upload their Strava results, and we can actually, sort of do some kind of it's a hybrid event where you're on the course. And it's one of the interesting things, if we leave it open for, say, 3 or 5 weeks, local people can, go give it a run this week and then go, oh, somebody's ahead of me, I think I can do better. So they're actually, this might consume, a month of their time just trying to do better on the same course. So, it's a weird thing, but it might actually help. So now, what can you do to help? If you're one of the fortunate ones, you got secured income, please go shopping. You're probably saving a bunch of money on, you can't travel, you can't go out to restaurants that much, you're saving money on gas. Spend it at the stores that you want to see survive. So, your running stores, the one in Lethbridge here, shop.runnersoul.com, they got stock in store, and they can also order online and bring stuff and even deliver it to you if you need to. And I tell people now too, especially if they're ramping up some of their mileage, they may want to consider rotating a couple of pairs of shoes so that when you're putting those stress points on your feet, somewhere in, the same shoe is going to have the same stress points. So I rotate multiple different shoes every other day. I very seldom go over the same shoes twice in a row, just so that, those little stress injuries are going to stay at bay. So and then, like I said, the virtual races are probably going to be something that's going to be happening over the next year, and then maybe some semblances of the old style. I heard somebody joke that, well, the races are going back to the 70s and 80s style, where there was nothing on course, there was no swag, you got a number, and you go out and run. So that's kind of the gist of it. I'm going to drop this out.